South Africans who have applied for these special votes are heading to the polls as election fever begins to build in this highly anticipated poll. Special voting taking place today and tomorrow before the big election day on Wednesday to allow an expected 27 million South Africans to cast their ballots. The IEC has approved over 1.6 million special vote applications, of which 600,000 voters are to be visited at their homes or places of confinement. The others will be able to vote at the voting stations where they're registered. Interestingly, Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal are two provinces with the most approved special votes, while the Northern Cape had the lowest number of applicants, as you heard there as well from our reporter. Let's talk about all this with IEC Vice Chairperson, Commissioner Janet Love. Good morning, Commissioner Love. Welcome to the program. Thank you very much. We are finally here. We're into the home stretch for the execution of these elections. Do you feel a sense of relief, or is now when that real stress begins to kick in?
I think we all feel, all of the people in the IEC feel that we're in the middle of a really important part of the finish, but it's a process that we have been working towards for a good 2 years. So everybody is, very ready and willing to do what needs to be done.
So I just want to quickly go to something, and you heard our crossing by our reporter Nobuhle Modise, who is at the Durban City Hall. There's nothing there. She says there are no materials. There are, in fact, some voters waiting to cast their special ballots. Why do you think that they're not prepared and that, there are no ballot materials that are available there right now?
Look, it's difficult to comment from a distance because every kind of situation has got variations. But just to give you some sense, we have, as you, I think, heard in your reports, had a couple of incidents in the eThekwini region, one being a situation where people entered in an unauthorized way, forced their way into one of the depots, of which is a storage depot, and in another incident went into another place where not the bulk materials, things like ballot box, booths and boxes that haven't been used and so on, were being stored in a church and actually harassed one of our officials. So there is a heightened process around issues to do with security. And there are two very different streams of delivering material. One is the ballot and security materials, and one are what we call the bulk materials, which are the booths and so on. In each case, there will be reasons for what has transpired. We hope that that's something that will be, and we are relatively sure that it will be attended to in a very short space of time. We have our issue tracker going in the Provincial Results Centre, and I've no doubt the officials there will attend to it quite soon. Also, just to clarify, Iman, the voting stations in terms of special votes open from 9 to 5 today and tomorrow. And at the same time, simultaneously, there are people who will be doing the various home visits. But the important thing to note is that if at a particular voting station, for example, 20 people have been approved to get their special votes, and those 20 people have completed their voting by, for example, 1 o'clock today, that voting station will close at 1 o'clock and won't open tomorrow, because we only allow people who have the pre-approved special voting who have completed the pre-approved special voting requirements, who are able to cast their ballots at the voting stations today and tomorrow. So it's from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. People must please remember to bring their IDs and really to make sure that they have received their approval for special votes, because people who turn up at the voting stations without these approvals will not be entitled to vote today or tomorrow, and we will hope that we will see them on Wednesday.
What concerns, and thank you very much for sharing that detail. As you say, if you see the voting station closes because that work or whatever the expectations were for the day have been met. But when you think about it, I just want to quickly go back to KwaZulu-Natal. We know it's a highly contested province in these elections. We've seen the court actions. So every movement, every action, every delivery by the IEC is going to be under 10 times as much scrutiny as perhaps it's been in previous elections. And so the non-availability of these materials, as you say, could be for a number of different reasons. What is the channel of communication between your officials on the ground and, let's say, IEC HQ in being able to give the nation the answers that it needs around the specificity of problems and how quickly they can be resolved?
We've got very direct communication. I'm sure that the voting officials in that voting station who indicate that they haven't received materials and have tried to contact their area manager will already have escalated that to the results centre of KwaZulu-Natal, and it will then go to the issue tracker, which will then make arrangements to understand what has happened and to intervene as speedily as possible. And there really are a number of reasons that these things can arise from. And so to speculate, I don't think is going to help you or your viewers, but I do think that we are able to then monitor and share, obviously, with the political parties, each of whom have a desk in the results centre and can follow up these issues as well with the staff in the results centres.
Just to stay with that theme, and we'll move on. We'll move on after this. The IEC's provincial electoral officer in KZN, and Ntombifuthi Masinga, appealed to communities not to violate staff who will be administering special votes in various parts of the country today and tomorrow. What are some of the risks the IEC believes they could be facing out in the field?
Look, I think the biggest risk is that political parties don't take responsibility for adherence by themselves, their supporters, and indeed even their competitors to the code of conduct. We really expect everybody to ensure that these elections are conducted without interference, certainly not with electoral staff, but also with voters. People must be entitled to cast their ballots without intimidation, and officials must be entitled to do their work without any interference. We know that there are different kinds of interference that anybody can conjure up, but we don't want people to conjure up. What we want people to do is to take responsibility to collectively make these elections a success. It can't be something that people deliberately create mischief and then expect everybody else to clean up after them. This is a collective responsibility, and we must all adhere to that.
So I just want to quickly talk about how the work of the IEC dovetails with the work of Nat Joints in securing these elections and making sure that it goes ahead in a free and fair manner. For example, we had concerns and allegations of a taxi organisation blockading all roads leading into Mthatha and blocking those special votes from taking place. What happens the minute your officials hear that, and then that coordination with Nat Joints? Just talk to us about, because this is now a real life expression of how that intention finds practical expression.
So basically, all of the provinces have had extensive meetings with the Prov joints, and so they have got contingency plans which are area-based, and they have contacts within those areas. And in addition to that, not only are officials able to make those contacts and to do those follow-ups, but we also do have our own conflict resolution structures who hopefully are able to link up again with communities in areas where there are particular sources of tension. Again, it's something that's going to be terribly specific. We have been in a discussion for some time with the Nat Joint and Prov Joints about issues dealing with service delivery and also with transport protests of various descriptions. And we have received various assurances, but we know that during election, people believe that this is an opportunity to get an additional kind of attention. But again, we appeal to people. This is a process that really needs to be embraced by everybody. Voters, taxi drivers, people who are disgruntled, people who are very keen to vote, contestants, parties. We've all got to work together to make this a success.
Commissioner Love, this election season has seen a flurry of court challenges. It's also been a test of the IEC's resilience. And I want to discuss very quickly one of the issues in the Concourt dealing with former President Jacob Zuma's accusation of bias against you. And that judgment, which we all heard Leona Theron said, the respondents bear the onus to establish the existence of bias, and they failed to do so. So there was no merit in the point and it must fail. How did you feel when you heard that, and how had it affected you?
Look, I think that we, in a time when there is very intense contestation, will always see people within the Electoral Commission coming under a whole lot of pressure. On that occasion, I was the focus, but there have been other commissioners and other officials who've been the focus in different ways. I felt a sense of relief because I believe that the organization as a whole and the leadership of the organization really do conduct the work of the IEC with a level of impartiality and objectivity in order to secure free and fair elections. Our objective has never been to have bias against any particular party. We're hit from all sides, and maybe that's an indication that, you know, something is right, but it's not, certainly not pleasant, but it's not good also to unnecessarily be putting, if I can call it, the umpire in the position of uncertainty, because it really makes it even more difficult to do what we have to do. And we're determined to ensure that the will of the South African population, voters are the most important, is what is heard in our ballot and what is heard in the results as the voters have decided. And so I was happy because I thought it vindicated the organization as a whole, and certainly at an individual level, it confirmed really what is for me the way I feel. I don't feel a sense of bias to any contestant and any candidate.
Commissioner Janet Love, thank you very much for talking to us and just sharing your response to that particular question, but also just sharing with us that what's happening around the country in terms of voting and what the expectations are to resolve some of the challenges that emerge come voting day, and some of those we're seeing already. That was IEC Vice Chairperson Janet Love.